following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all nerds! International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games, a show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both the player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, are my two wonderful co-hosts extraordinaire, Chris Holmes and Stephan Dragonspawn. How are we, fellas? Starting with Chris.
Yeah, glad you said that, because I'm like, how you doing, fellas? You asking us both at the same time. We're going to start talking over each other. Right, Stephan?
Yes.
I'm doing good. I did much grilling this weekend. Made a couple briskets for my group last night, playing D&D. Yeah. Made some barbecue nachos today. Watched John Wick. All 3 movies. Fucking cool.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped about this episode too.
Very good. Very good. So yes, I'm doing well as well. Not had any game, but on Saturday, of course, Chris always shares his pics of his barbecue, so I always get to see his meat. Dum, dum, dum.
Bum, 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 bum.
Before and after. And now still working on my Dragonstar campaign to hopefully run my face-to-face game, which I'm converting Dragonstar to Genesys, which is going pretty well. I'm using a lot of material from Starcana, so thank you for coming up with that. It helps a lot with with coming up with some of my stuff and using it as shortcuts. So.
Cool. How about you, Tony? How you doing, bud?
Not bad. I'm on vacation. So, obviously, I've done all kinds of things around the house, like brainstorm making a character for Jamie's new Terranoth game.
Of course.
And eating horseradish cheese in my pajamas.
Like you do.
We had a movie marathon of our own yesterday. The wife and I decided we were going to watch all 4 Avengers films.
Sweet.
Beyond that, I ain't done shit.
And you know what? More power to you. That's exactly what I would do on my days off. Not shit.
Showers are optional nowadays.
Yeah. You can do 2 things, Jack and shit.
That's right.
No, I'm kidding. I shower every day. I have to. I feel dirty otherwise.
Well, alrighty then. Hey, Stephan, do we have any news to report?
A little bit of news. Of course, there's still Con on the Cob, which is coming up now in less than 40 days. It's still on October 3rd to the 6th, just south of Cleveland in Ridgefield, Ohio. A bunch of us will be there. A few less people than last year, but because of different things. But still, about 10 of us will be there.
Cool.
Which is good. And, of course, we're keeping an eye on new stuff that's coming out for the Genesys Foundry, which is a new resource, of course. It's been out for a little while. I noticed, I think it was maybe yesterday or this morning that I noticed it, I forget. A new thing came out called Crooks and Contacts 1, which is a nice little profile for a NPC, fully fleshed out NPC for Shadows of the Beanstalk.
Cool.
What's that all about?
It's Marcus Wyndham, runner. So you've got, it's all about this particular NPC who's obviously a net runner, a hacker. And so he's got the whole background, personality profile, etc. Even adventure seeds or encounter seeds that they suggest. So
Awesome.
Very nice.
All that for $1. And since it's number 1, I'm guessing that there'll be more.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. So there you go. So sometimes when you don't have time to create fully fleshed NPCs, maybe there'll be some more in the future. For now, you've got a Netrunner.
Cool. Liking it.
Sweet.
Here we go. So as far as I know, that's it for news. Over to you.
Well, I do have a couple selections for listener feedback.
Cool.
And the first one I'd like to get into is from Preach Will. And he says, I'm taking another stab at horror using the Genesys system. The last time went very well, and the players had a good time. Something I noticed, however, was that it's pretty difficult to kill players with the rules as written. I don't know if that's just how the game was designed to be, or if this is just due to lack of imagination on my part, the GM. How can I make the next sci-fi horror campaign, my next sci-fi horror campaign, more deadly and give the players a more tense experience? General GM tips or rules modification suggestions are all welcome. Thank you guys for doing what you do, and may the dice be ever in your favor. From Preach Will.
Yep.
So I responded to Will there, and what I said was, thanks for writing us again. Will's written us before. And I told him my 5 tips, which are to make healing scarce, make those painkillers or whatever it may be for the setting, make them scarce and hard to find. Your characters will carry wounds between combats, because you're not going to heal much with medicine checks. Also, keep soak low on the characters, or give monsters Pierce and Breach to get through that soak if they have high soak. That makes them fear getting hit a little more often. I mean, 1 or 2 hits and they're down.
Yeah.
Monster damage should be 1 to 2 points higher than the average. Of course, the average being 4 or 5. So you should always have it 6 or 7, or even if you have a really nasty attack that normally would be 9 or 10, pump it up to 11 or 12.
Ooh, ouch.
Well, that's a one-hit shot if it has some breach.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it is.
but if you're thinking like the big monster from Stranger Things, that thing hit somebody one time, they were dead.
Yep.
So an attack from that thing that did 12 damage with breach 1, that's going to fuck any character's day over.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. And I also said 4th was hit them with lots of situational setback dice to dial up that horror factor more. Every time there's a situation, even existing wounds can be used as a reason to throw setback on a character. That way, when they generate more threat, they generate more strain, which is another way of knocking them out. And then once you knock them out, you can do all the horrible things that you want to them. And then a potential new setting rule called Deadly Encounters. And that's anytime a character, that's NPC or player, has exceeded their wound threshold, roll all crits applied to their character at plus 50%.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's deadly. That would definitely make it deadly.
So, those were my suggestions. You guys got anything?
I was thinking one thing, maybe as a simple rule, sometimes, instead of giving the creature sometimes breach or increasing the base damage, what if the base damage stays, but every success is 2 points of damage?
That could be, a creature's special ability, or even for all creatures in a specific setting.
Yeah, that sounds like a special ability. Yeah,
or if you want just a few creatures, a nasty werewolf, their claws could be particularly deadly, or even a vampire. Not all creatures, but some of the really nastier ones.
Or Vorpal Bunny Bite. Right? That could be. I'd give that frickin' bunny 2 successes.
or chaotic evil lightning bunnies even. Yeah,
there
you can
you
watch
go.
out for them.
Yeah, I actually responded as well, basically seconding all of Tony's suggestions there, and suggesting maybe creating more fear checks would bring in more opportunities for failures, and then pull in that mental traumas and phobias, and then maybe even look at Tony's what he came up with for his madness rules, adding adversary to those fear checks, right, on these bad guys. And of course, you can always throw a fucking frag grenade and a goddamn turbo lift against your character named Baka. Oh, wait a second.
No.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, throwing a frag grenade in a small enclosed space with one character. Yeah, that's always a good way to make stuff deadly. Most definitely.
Good thing it was only a dream sequence.
Yes, you're right.
All right. Well, thanks again, Will, for writing us, and I hope we gave you the answers. He did respond back and say that our answers were probably going to do the work for him, but let's hope it does. So
Cool. Yeah, always appreciate it, man. Keep writing in.
Let us know what you use and how you dealt with it.
Yeah,
especially that new setting rule. I have not play tested it, but I've heard it works. So
where'd you see
give it a shot.
Is that an original idea, or you saw it somewhere?
Probably a Facebook thread or a Reddit thread somewhere.
Cool.
I read a lot of shit.
Yep. I hear you.
Moving on, we got one from our friend Jared Wilson, or Jared DW as we originally called him. Over at he sent us another email. It says, "Hey guys," and Stephanie. That's so nice of him to include her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm making a skin for Genesys using a popular Stellar Voyage property. In the official game, they have a ship essentially making supporting character roles for every activity aboard the ship. They have the ship essentially making supporting character roles for every. I get it now. This means 2 roles for every action while aboard a starship. To streamline that, I've borrowed an idea whereby the starship has its own system attributes, and the character's skill is used. These attributes include communications, computers, engines, structure, sensors, and weapons. So, if you're trying to send a message through interference, and your ship has had communications 2, and your character has operating of 3, you'd roll 2 yellow and a green. Your intellect is not part of the role. The ship's system is. I think this makes the ship much more integrated into the scene, yet keeps it about the characters and their actions. I agree with him there. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts or problems? I didn't think of. Thanks again for everything on the show, Jared W. And I responded to Jared, and what the thought I had was I said it sounds like a great idea, and I could see lots of potential for fun, but using communications to me seems like the player would be using their computer's skill as opposed to operating. Operating is really totally just flying the ship.
Right.
And I think that, I said one suggestion I would have is to retool the vehicle crit chart to include mimicking versions of the characteristic damaging crits like on the personal crit chart, because there's nothing like that on the vehicle crit chart. So that it can do damage to those or apply setback dice when rolling a particular ship attribute.
Yeah.
Right.
And he said, yeah, he'd already planned on reworking that was his next step. And but mainly my big thought was that having just operating being the skill, I thought, operating is needed. If operating is needed for every character to interact with the ship, it kind of takes away from the various different careers within your setting. Yeah. They lose their individuality, so to speak. So when, say, a certain member of the team, we'll call him Sully, is trying to fly the ship, he can fly it like nobody's business because he's using operating. And the engine, but he wouldn't be really good at using computers and the communication stat because he's not as good at computers. There's really only one woman for that job.
I know, that's O'Hara.
Yeah.
She has a pretty good communication skill, for sure. Maybe knowledge languages too. I mean, there's those kinds of things you can actually bring in depending on what the actual check is going to be for. I would pretty much keep it a little open to. I mean, have a set of generic skills that you can link to these different ship systems, but have the players come up with some things too. You know, if you want to communicate with the alien race, knowledge xenology with communications on the ship, or even with the computers on the ship, you might have to look up translations and such, you know? I mean,
if all your eggs are in the basket of operating, it seems to me like it's going to be a little too focused.
Yeah.
For all the different characters that are going to want to be in the setting. That just seems what it was seeming to me. And he said he came back and said he was going to handle that with talents. But I don't know. Go ahead, Stephan.
Sorry, I'm just rereading the operating skill, and just to be sure what it covers. And this would be ideal, for operating. Of course, is better for these huge vessels, whether they're galleons or Starship Enterprises, whatever. But if you apply it to a smaller ship, like the Firefly or something like that, then you're not using operating, but you can still use the same system. So if you want to pilot the ship, the ship might have an attribute for maneuverability, but it's piloting. Communications would be maybe computers, like you say, because it's a small ship. You don't use operating for everything. But but making everything about operating sort of makes it like a skill that would be like way too useful for everybody.
Like an Uber skill.
Yeah, an Uber skill, because then you don't need computers anymore. You don't need piloting. You don't need gunnery. Gunnery,
why would I put any points in anything other than operating?
Yeah.
Seriously, if I was going to play in that system, I would put all my XP in operating, and I win.
Well, maybe the only other skill you'd be useful would be the gunnery skill then, because then that's a very specific one that handles big weapons or ship-mounted weapons. Mm-hmm. But other than that, But if you're just having a small plane group, they'll probably have a small ship, which is usually not using operating. It would be using mechanics for repairing and maintaining the ship, piloting
for flying it.
Yeah, computers for sensors and communications and whatnot, or navigation as well. That would be all astrogations. But anyway, so as long as you maybe make sure what type of skills are required for your ship or vehicle, that way people don't all put their points into there and max it out at the easily.
Mm-hmm.
That's our take anyway, but thank you, Jared, for sharing with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And hopefully you take something away from it, or you just go, you know what, I don't like what these guys have to say, and you do your own thing and have fun with it anyway.
That's right. We want to hear about it too. Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's just our opinions. You take what you want with it, and like a lot of people, we've got a belly button just like everybody else. We have an opinion as well. So.
My opinion is just like Stephan. It sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Sometimes it blows too.
Well, then,
we got
what a great lead-in to our next segment.
Let's do that.
All right.
Welcome to 50 Pieces of Awesome.
No, I'm just kidding. This is 50 Pieces of Awesome. This is where Chris goes on the internet, finds something great for us old whippersnappers, and shares it with us because we're lazy and don't know how to use the interwebs. So,
yep.
What you got, bud?
What?
Well, I found something strange on the internet. Yes, it's
you did?
yes, it's by J. Scott Zumwalt, aka Drainsmith. Thank you for the woman in red, by the way. And the yes, it's his something strange setting. Holy crap! This is 40 pages of awesome. You can get it out on the Foundry for $9.99, which I've already done. He's got a character sheet on there, and I must say the graphics that he's got for the character sheet, threw him in a little what do you call it? Inside of like the characteristics circles and whatnot. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I like the font too.
Nice.
I do.
Okay.
But though it is 5 pages long. Tony's like, what the fuck? Why 5 pages? But the last page is a legal page, and then there's 2 pages for a talent pyramid. Yeah, that's what I would need. I put all my XP in talents, so yeah. So that pulls in themes and tropes for vampires, werewolves, magicians. Oh my. Yeah, this is like a modern themed horror, which I want to play it because I want to spend 5 XP to become a vampire. Yes.
What?
Yes, you can do that in this. You're either playing, you could play humans, hunters, magicians, vampires, werewolves. It's kind of that whole, there's a secret world out there that really nobody knows. Like the soccer mom down the street doesn't know that, hey, I'm a vampire or I hunt werewolves or something. Reminds me a lot of the Supernatural show, which you could totally pull in. Yeah, man.
I was going to say, what do you think would be like a great inspirational? And you said Supernatural.
The show's Supernatural. Yeah.
I was thinking Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That too. There you go. I mean, any of those you could pull in, and he goes through the themes and tropes, and which I really like when it's in the front of the document. Hey, this is what it's about. Also added 3 new archetypes for humans. Added the athlete, which is linked to agility, dedicated, which is linked to willpower, and the savvy, which is linked to cunning. Pretty cool abilities with them, too. And, of course, put in there what we like about with the career is just starting gear. Kind of looks like what they did in, Tiernoth, and in the Beanstalk, Shadows of the Beanstalk, where you just list, here's the gear you start with. Yeah, I know, I saw that. I pounded on my table. I hear you. One other little thing in this horror setting, added weapon noise. Page 12. And the suppressed item quality on page 25. I think it's just brilliant that you add something like that, especially in a horror setting, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be using that totally in my horror games.
Yeah. And it's cool because basically the weapon noise, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. Go get it. Read it yourselves. It'll be cool. And like I mentioned, vampire, werewolf talents. Spend 5 XP to become a vampire, you got all these kick-ass talents that you can get to.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of follow-up talents like blood potency and fear the beast that just make you that much more cool as a monster.
Exactly. Has a nice table on page 28 for creating custom implements for your magics, which I think he's added. It kept the core magic in the in this setting as well. And then, added, have vehicles, and then adversaries in the back. Chupacabras. They're chupacabras. That's kind of gives you a nice little thing. And W. Emmett Roebuck for the win. This guy he was a Texas Ranger back in the Civil War who got turned into a vampire. And he's now just a vampire, guy out there, a nice nemesis out there. And why can't I play this guy? Oh, wait, I can. If I'm running this, I totally can play him.
There we go.
But, yeah, I think this is great. A lot of good stuff, well laid out, and, yeah, I want to play it. Definitely want to play it.
Cool.
What do you guys think?
Oh, no. Yeah, it's great. One of the things I really loved were some of the nemesis. Just some of the monsters, some of the I shouldn't say nemesis, the adversaries. The Mothman. I like the what are they? The urban legend type monsters. I kind of like those monsters, and I like playing with them. The Chupacabra, obviously, cool.
Skunk ape.
The Mothman, the skunk ape, the jackalope. All those are awesome. And I totally want to make my jack-o'-lantern man, the fucking headless horseman, and throw it in something like this. It'd be awesome. So.
Oh, and a jackalope. I didn't even see the jackalope. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You're fast as fast can be. You'll never catch me.
Wow.
Nope, I think it's really good. The Vampires and Werewolves' talents was really kind of a, bang, hey, enlightenment moment for me. I kind of enjoyed that. So,
yeah.
Kind of like a template when you start, for certain other games. It gives you the starting packages. Okay, this is your Curse of Vampirism, the basics, but it also opens up to a whole other talents as you grow older and more powerful.
Yep.
Now suddenly you've got this other talent that you now transform into a bat or something like that. I haven't read all the talents myself, but I'm sure there's something like that.
My thought came to my mind was, okay, you're playing in a campaign and you have a character that really, really loves their character, a player that really loves their character, and they don't want their character to die. You're playing in a fantasy or at least a setting that has the supernatural involved. All right, create a talent that they have to buy with XP. Now they're a ghost.
Yeah, you could totally
you create a series of talents for them that allows them to interact with people and do ghostly things. You could totally do that. And now you have a way for players to play their characters after their death, which awesome.
Yeah.
You could do the same thing with maybe zombies or ghouls, templates like that.
Yeah, an intelligent ghoul. You could do the same thing with a lich.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a fantasy campaign. Well thought out, Scott. Thank you very much for doing that, and totally going to steal that idea, buddy.
There you go. You mean borrow? Borrow.
Reskin.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. There it is.
Oh.
Nice.
But anyhow.
So there we go. So thank you, Drain Smith, Scott. 50 pieces of awesome to you again, because you come up with so many great stuff, so many great things.
Oh yeah.
Talking
Why are we featuring our competition's stuff, dude?
What competition?
I see how it is.
No, it's all good.
They're collaborators. Yeah, that's it.
We're all collaborators.
One big happy community, and I think they're doing a great job over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Books of Genesis. All right, you joined me on that one. Cool, Stephan. What's the name of our episode?
The name of the episode?
Sample setting spotlight number 1. Sovereigns of Steam. Yes, everyone. Open up your core rulebook to page 148. Because we're going to be talking about the steampunk setting, and then we'll talk about Sovereigns of Steam as well. So, I guess to start with, what is steampunk to you guys? What is it?
Go ahead,
okay.
Stephan.
All right. Well, for me, steampunk is a little bit like a Victorian era. Most of the time, it's kind of a Victorian era where technology is starting. Industrial revolution has begun. But instead of going the standard boring Earth reality route. These fantastical technologies are used and actually work. Whether it's Tesla's concepts of electricity or steam can be used in ways that are very different and more effectively than they actually ever were.
Yep.
And you can have your mad scientists come up with these crazy theories of the ether and whatnot, and it involves a lot of things that look very retro-futuristic.
Anachronistic future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anachronistic. So, lots of gears, lots of brass, lots of metal and leather, and
kind of antiquated in a way.
A little bit, but still pulpy action.
Yep.
Your bad guys are really bad. Your good guys are really good. And there's Indiana Jones with weird tech.
There you go.
Be good.
That's
an
cool.
example.
There you go.
Thank you, Tony.
Well, when I think about steampunk, I think about the first stories we read as kids when we're in grade schools. We read those stories by Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Time Machine, these Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. These are all stories that give us the idea of steampunk. The birth of science was in the 1800s, was this expanding frontier, and they didn't know where all this new technology, electricity and gears and steam could go. Mm-hmm. Well, it went one direction for us in our history. It could have gone others, and that's what if it could have gone this other direction.
Right.
That's what steampunk is to me.
Yeah. I read in here, if the combustion engine didn't replace that, that's kind of where it would go.
Right.
And the sidebar, actually on page, 149? Mm-hmm. The three primary forces are the steam power, clockwork, and electricity. You keep those in mind, and you don't really worry about, how does this steampunk thing fly? Who cares? It's got wings, it's got gears, it's got pulleys, it frickin' works. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing with friends who are scientists, tell them to check their brains at the door.
That's right.
Because their science is not going to work here.
No. But they do say it's got to feel right. And, it's, you know what I mean? It's, there are a couple of examples they have. The electricity running for every home feels a bit too modern. However, an advanced application like a directed energy weapon or something just feels right if it's powered by this big steam engine or whatever, this big piston.
The key is to have these advanced technologies, but they're experiments. They're experimental. There are huge drawbacks to using them, or huge potential. You're going to use this nasty energy weapon, but you automatically upgrade twice, because if you're going to roll a despair, the thing's going to blow up, or it's going to, or it's going to turn your friends into newts. Who knows? You don't know what it's going to do.
That's right. So we've got some tropes here that we start with, and I think we've pretty much hit the improbable technology. We kind of knocked that into the dirt. That was one of the things, like what we're talking about, right? And steam-powered machines, clanking, hissing, and all that.
Not necessarily impossible, but unlikely to work with our science.
Yeah, improbable.
But, throw in a few different theories that could work. Yeah.
Steam. I like this part here. This is really how you capture that improbable technology thing. This last paragraph. Steam-powered machines may be clanking, hissing experiments liable to explode at the slightest provocation, or reliable technologies that have functioned for years. And both extremes often exist alongside one another in the setting. It's an age of invention, regardless of what age or universe, and it happens to be in. And generally, steampunk technologies are bigger, louder, smokier than the modern digital equivalents. They are replete with pipes, gears, smokestacks, brass tubing, all those things that we mentioned. And that right there, just, you could have a cell phone, but it's this giant freaking steam power or gear device that you gotta maybe put a helmet on to use it.
You guys ever watch that show, Warehouse 13? It was on the Sci-Fi Channel a few years back.
It's on my to-do list.
I've watched a few episodes.
Yeah, they had some of the antiquated technologies in there. Really evokes it, you know?
Yeah, they had a communicator, like almost like a portable visiphone, you know, with the lens is a bit distorted, but it still works.
Yeah,
but it's not a cell phone. It doesn't work with the same technology.
Exactly.
So that's why they use it, because it can't be traced.
And I also
they don't go over their minutes.
Yeah, exactly. This also made me think of the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Nautilus from Captain Nemo's Nautilus, right? I mean, that's very steampunky. Wouldn't you guys agree? You think? That's what I thought.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's a ton of inspirations out there, ones you mentioned. Plus, there's the Sherlock Holmes films. Those are a great example, the two Sherlock Holmes films. There's also Immortal Engines, which is a futuristic post-apocalyptic steampunk.
There you go. I didn't think of that. You're right. You're right.
I was thinking about that one, yes.
So
Wild Wild West? I think Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. The giant clockwork spider monster thing. Yeah. Hell yeah. So while that brings us to the next trope, which is the Victorian aesthetic, which most steampunk has the Victorian styles, which is 1800s, 19th century British Empire. You have that expansionist attitude, but they're spreading across the land. You have the styles from that time. Women wore corsets and bustiers, but women were just then exploring their equal rights too. So there was that huge push, and then there was still that kind of courtly lords and ladies going on also to brought
polite
down
society.
Yes, but you could still include elements from that same time period elsewhere in the world, where you have that whole Wild West feel.
Yep.
Same time period, just a different feel, but it all still kind of fits in a steampunk setting.
Yeah. One of the things I liked about this was they're talking about the social problems and how the folks of a lower class, the working class, are basically, quote unquote, the cogs in the machine, right? This feels very, what do you call it? Shadow of the Beanstalk to me, in that you have your wristies, but then you have the people in other societies. But just throw steampunk on it, boom, baby. Same themes, right? They're working for the man. That kind of
Well,
that's
very
what
rich
puts
and the very poor.
That's what puts the punk into it. The punk element comes from there is the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots have this attitude of we want our freedom and we're going to fight for it. That's where the punk element comes from.
Yep.
So
sorry.
Go ahead, Stephan.
There was a short series on Netflix called Death and Robots. You guys ever watch them? There's one great episode. It's a short episode. Usually they're all between 15, 20 minutes. One great one where it's set in ancient China, about the Victorian Empire.
I remember that one.
Entering, and all this technology is like pushing away the magic. So also, without giving away the whole story, there's one China man, a Chinese man, who's getting very knowledgeable about these technologies, adapted to it, and he becomes an expert at maintaining and creating these clockwork stuff.
Yep.
And he helps his friend with it, and it's amazing little bit of animation that very much steampunk, because he's working class, she's very, very, very poor, but courts the powerful in her own situation. So it was really cool to see those two mesh.
That's actually a nice segue too.
Yeah, you could mix like ancient, instead of being Victorian English, maybe set it in China. China has been known for coming up with new technology. They come up with gunpowder, so why not set it in a Chinese setting, maybe the Ming Dynasty or whatever, just before the West comes in,
or during it.
But they develop their own little, aesthetics. Everything looks nice and sleek and very, have dragon motifs or whatever, designs that the Orientals always put their own touch on things.
Right, and the reason why I was saying it's a nice segue is because you have these clockwork automatons, which is kind of the next trope here, where you have, your automation with this new technology, and it could upset the workers displaced by automated clockwork workers. That sounds like a theme that we've heard of, right? I mean, biroids in Shadow of the Beanstalk, and you have clockworks in Sovereigns of Steam. So pretty cool.
But you also have these vast war machines that can be created now, and you have the post-war feel that can come from it in almost like a for lack of better examples, the post-World War II era feel where things were just worn down and everybody was tired of fighting, and you can totally have areas or a setting or whatever that are all about this, trying to rebuild their society that these horrible technologies have destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the field of battle has now changed. It's no longer cavalry and riflemen. Now you've got tanks and airships, that drop bombs from way above.
Here I like this little thing. It says, while coaches carried aloft by balloons might make flying cars a reality before, or instead of automobiles.
Yeah.
So you can have your flying cars, baby. Flying coaches.
That's it.
There you go.
No. Well, the flying... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now, the flying vehicles that they had in Immortal Legends were pretty cool. Almost like a combination of small dirigibles / fighters.
Yeah, those are cool. Those
very
are
much so. Very much so. And then we have our last trope, which we've already kind of covered, but it's through a glass foggy, and I kind of like steampunk has been described as retrofuturism, which is, I think, a word that Stephan used. And this holds true to an extent whether the steampunk game is set in an alternate past, an alternate present, or an alternate future. Heavily informed by popular conceptions of Victorian England, and heavily informed by steam-powered technologies of the 19th century. Steampunk pushes technology forward. So we're into that. Technology is reaching beyond what it was at that time and moves into future technologies, and that's where Chris got into the flying cars and the large airships that carry thousands of people, like these huge airliners, like the one that I have that I put into our Primordial Machina setting. This huge, it's like the Titanic, only it's a huge dirigible airship that is powered by our fey crystals. And steam combined, and it's this marvel of technology, and it just goes between all the major cities. Again, one of those things where you want to incorporate those futuristic ideas that are far-reaching, and put them into that aesthetic of gears and steam and the wonders of electricity. So.
Yep. And the very last sentence is pretty cool, where it says steampunk is about keeping one eye on the past and one on possibility. So just keep that in your mind when you're thinking of these things, that it's got to feel maybe older, but it's got to be something that's possible and improbable, like we had said too. So
well, yeah, like the jetpack, so you've got someone who's developed a jetpack. It looks older. It doesn't look sleek like something you would see in Star Trek or Star Wars, but has fins and chrome.
Gotcha.
So, what we're going to skip over the next little bit here, which is about the example setting and the fluff on it, because we're going to cover that in our setting the tone.
Yes.
What we're really going to talk about is some of the gear and other things that are available for these types of settings. And I'd first like to start with the character options, and I think they provided two really good character options that capture, and we added a third one in our steampunky setting. We had the elemental side of it, which was our amalgams, and then we had the the 3 on the other side, which we took 2 right from this book, and then we added a third one. The 2 from the book here, personally, my favorite is I've always liked were creatures, so the mongrel really kind of struck me, and I just want to go into that. So the mongrels, so-called mongrels, are products of science run amok. These are creations, whether you use the Sovereigns of Steam setting or not. These are creations created by an elixir that gets into their blood and stays there, and it turns them into monsters. So your Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or even your Wolfman type characters. Really, it covers all those bases. You can be this dude who looks like a monster, or you can be this monster that wants to be a man. It really fits for both. So your mongrel looks like a normal human, and they have all the stats of a normal human. However, where things go a little awry is these 2 awesome abilities, which they basically turned into talents for Terranoff. If you didn't notice, their racial abilities are Shapeshifter, or also known as the Beast Within, and Improved Shapeshifter, or the Human Spirit.
Basically, yes.
And that's a key indicator for us when we're looking at creating races in the future, about taking talents that we like that are unique, reskinning them, and making them into racial abilities to make our races or our archetypes for our games slightly unique.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, I don't know, who likes the other one?
I like it. Go ahead, Stephan. You do that one.
Yeah. The other one is the Revenant, which, of course, then introduces the man playing God and basically bringing the dead back to life. Think, of course, Dr. Frankenstein and his monster.
It's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Did your hump
walk like this? Walk this way.
Loving you got my reference. You guys are dorks.
Oh yeah.
That movie it's Mel Brooks. We're the generation of Mel Brooks.
I know.
That's why we're not offended by anything.
I know.
So that's where you would have, whatever shape or form, the reason they come back, someone's brought them back through weird science, or maybe, dark rituals, or if you're introducing magic anyway into your steampunk, but mostly, through some kind of weird science, either intentional or gone awry.
Yeah, you could even kind of include this as kind of a opener for like a vampire-like guy. You can build on that with talents, but a vampire-like guy, say like Dr. Morbius from the comics, Morbius, he started out as a normal man, but it was a elixir that turned him into a vampire creature and gave him superpowers. So
yeah,
cool.
Yep. All right, so those are the 2, and then of course Chris and I included the Clockwork Man, which I think is another one that you could easily add to any steampunk setting. And all we did was we took the rules that they did for Star Wars, the droids in Star Wars, and we just applied the steampunk aesthetic to it. Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, that's it. We retrapped it, if you will.
Retrofuturism. Ta-da!
Retrofuturism. Boom. Done. Makes me think of the Clockwork guy in the Hellboy movie. That's
the assassin, the Clockwork Assassin.
Yeah, he was creepy, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, in some ways, you almost think he could be a revenant because he started out as human, but surgically introduce all these mechanisms into himself. So
right,
it's half and half.
Yeah. All right. So that was the species. Let's get into some gear here.
Gearheads.
Yeah, and love the Springfist. And I must say, just reading the descriptions instead of just looking at the table, you got to read the descriptions of these.
Oh fuck yeah!
Awesome. Those are great.
Yeah, for me, a staple of any good gritty technology setting is chainsaws. So the rotor sword. The rotor sword with this, basically a chainsaw sword that can go really fucking bad.
Yeah.
It's not like exactly like your awesome Warhammer space, whatever that is, Warhammer 40K swords.
Yep.
Where these are big, bulky, steam-powered freaking monstrosities that are inaccurate and, dude, totally would hurt. If somebody rolled a despair running one of these things, totally have them hurt themselves with it, or have it run out of freaking energy. Or
let me read these 2 sentences. It says, although a rotary sword is extremely deadly, the impracticality of having to refuel it before battle has prevented it becoming a mainstay of fighting forces. Additionally, bringing it to a gunfight is still risky. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I like that it's cumbersome and inaccurate. That speaks to the fact that it's not something everybody's going to want to carry around.
No.
So
Cumbersome. No. What is it? Cumbersome 3.
3.
Yeah. So you got to have
your brawny guy will be the one carrying that.
Brawn of 3, inaccurate 1.
You guys got any coal? My sword's out of fuel.
I need a couple pieces of coal.
Yeah, and the fuel we're talking about is not gas.
No.
It's not gas, people, because no combustion engines. It's coal, motherfucker. And then of course,
or you could get it specially created with an alchemical elixir, but that has to be specially made in shops.
Yeah,
and you make it expensive as hell. Yeah, that'd be cool. But anyhow, what else?
They have a freaking death ray.
Well, of course.
Stephan, is there something you like?
I mean, yeah.
Well, I like the death ray. You can't have a good villain, good arch villain, mad scientist with a death ray or some kind of death ray, which reminds me of a campaign I used to play in. One of my friends ran the Torg campaign, which is multiple realities, and one of our villains. I actually played a card to make him a recurring villain for my character, and I forget his name, but every time he showed up with his cohort Igor, he had a different kind of ray. One was the death ray, the anti-gravity ray, the de-evolvo ray, which turned humans into chimps.
Wow.
the ice gun, and every time he showed up, we'd defeat him, but he'd escape. It's not one of those campaigns where you kill everybody. He always manages to escape, which is fine because I got more XP every time he showed up.
Nice.
And since we defeated him, he has less resources. He would show up with a less impressive vehicle at the end. He was showing up in a steam-powered, let's say, moped kind of thing.
Nice. and you know what? I'll tell you, this sentence right here kind of says it all about... Don't even worry about what the frickin' science is behind it. Our death ray fires a beam of electricity, radiate ions, charged aether, or what have you, in an erratic path, like that of a lightning bolt. So they even said, what have you? It doesn't really matter. Whatever it is, it does it. So
it seems to run on some form of electricity.
That's
right. That's why it looks like a lightning bolt.
And it's hard to control, a bit like, in Ghostbusters, the proton packs. Shooting. So use lots of those threats and despairs to shoot up the scenery.
I don't know if you want to cross the streams with death rays, do you?
No, maybe not. No. Then you get a non-death ray, maybe.
There you go. Steampunk Ghostbusters.
There we go.
That would be sweet.
Sounds interesting.
Anything else we want to say about weapons? I mean, there's a few more weapons here.
There's a bunch of them. The clockwork grenade is cool, but...
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, the clockwork grenade.
Yeah. So you can give your characters shell shock.
There you go. Baka. Yeah.
No, I'd like to go into the armors. I think we want to mention this one really cool armor.
Go ahead, say it, Tony. Say it. What's
Admiral Arthur's astounding amplimotive armor.
And of course, you have to have at least a few pieces of gear. 5 words, same beginning letter in your setting if you want. So that's a word.
This is it's a large, heavy suit of armor. Thick metal plating completely covers the wearer, although the helmet may be easily removed or has a hinging faceplate.
What
This
is that,
armor-
I wonder.
This armor provides the best protection possible short of riding in an actual tank. But it is far too heavy for anyone to support. That's where Admiral Arthur Schilling patented steam-powered emblemative architecture comes in.
Just throw big words. It's good.
Yep.
That's what it's...
By the way, of a complex system of gears and hydraulics, the armor responds to and enhances each movement by the wearer. The wearer of the, and then it goes into the game stats. I just love that flavored text for that.
Yeah.
It captures the idea behind the setting in one piece of armor right there.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And then you got your others, but that one really just kind of hello.
There it is.
Or maybe it has different letters at the beginning of every word. It forms an acronym,
Oh, exactly. Well, obviously. There's that.
Yeah.
There you
So-
go.
Medusa. You figure out something that works with Medusa. Oh, no, not that.
That's right.
Keep it simple, stupid. Let's not make it a 7-letter word now. We got to keep it,
No.
I'm just fucking.
Let's keep it simple, Stephan.
There you go.
Oh no. It's keep it simple, stupid. That's the KISS method.
Yep.
Yes, I know.
I like to use it because it invokes KISS. Yeah. All right, sorry.
Right. All right, are we ready to get into some pieces of gear? Oh, guess what?
Yeah, there's other
Stephan?
gear.
I found your jetpack. Oh, it's called an arrow pack or arrow suit.
There we go.
I'm wondering if it's red and gold.
I don't know.
It might be. So basically, character wearing an arrow pack can fly.
Yep.
It
There you go.
doesn't matter. None of these devices are incredibly reliable, though. So a despair result means it runs out of power at the end of your character's turn and remains unpowered for the rest of the session. So basically, you make a piloting check.
And to try and land.
It also means that if your character doesn't make it to solid ground by that point, they're in for a fall. Nice.
This fucking shit's made by Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, it is.
This isn't flying, this is falling with grace.
That's right. And there's a couple things. There's a miracle tonic here, which increases your wound threshold and strain threshold by 5 for the current encounter, but you got to make a resilience check. Or
of course.
you're going to have a headache.
Furthermore, once it wears off, if you still keep the number of wounds you had.
Oh, yeah.
And if that exceeds your threshold, you go down.
Yeah, you're immediately incapacitated. I love that.
That's
good.
great. What's the last really good one there, Stephan?
Oh, let's see. There's a few little things. Let's see. Van Rin's potion of paralyzation. Oh, this tonic does have the distinction of being created by an actual doctor who is attempting to invent an anesthetic. However, various unscrupulous individuals have repurposed it as an incapacitating poison. Ah, the cads. They stole my secret formula. Now they want to put it into the city's water system.
There you go.
Plot.
Nice. Well, that covers, the gear really does make the setting again. And all these things, Chris and I went, we're making a steampunk setting. What gear should we throw in? All of it? Okay.
And then some.
Oh, yeah, we made our own, but we incorporated all of this stuff into our steampunk setting that we created.
Right.
Now, let's get into the adversaries.
Yes.
So, first one that comes to mind is you've got these dirigibles out there, right? Well, ta-da! Air pirates.
Yeah, buddy.
Boom.
My name is Don Carnage of the Iron Vulture.
And they have a couple. So and I've noticed in these adversary stats, they have gear in here that isn't necessarily on their lists that they put, like a revolver, right? But I don't see a limited ammo for the revolver.
Nope, because it's got more than 5 shots. So
Got to. Yeah.
that said revolver is actually listed on. Oh crap! It's listed somewhere.
Is it?
Oh.
Yeah,
Is it in the modern
Oh,
setting?
with-
Might be the modern one.
it's in the modern setting.
Got
Yep.
it.
Well, with a revolver, at least you can use some of those despairs to run out of ammo. You didn't load it properly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Nope. No,
So-
it's not.
besides, I thought limited ammo was more for things like a missile launcher that only has 1 shot at a time.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true.
Well,
And-
I just mentioned that because there was kind of a debate out on the forums about revolvers. Should they have limited ammo 6? Because it's just 6 shots. But then it got into talking about, well, do you really want to keep track of that or whatever? But
Well,
And
that's
anyone who
interesting.
had a revolver back in the day, I mean, revolvers always had the removable cylinders.
Yep.
So you could have a gun belt filled with those cylinders. Do you want to make someone buy extra reloads, or do you want to just use the system that's already in place? And I think
Absolutely.
that's why they did that. The system that's already in place of if you roll 3 threat or a despair,
Yeah.
you ran out of bullets.
Yeah, or else you can do the same thing with any firearm, like limited ammo 11, limited ammo 50 for some machine gun with it. But do you really want to start calculating each shot?
yeah, exactly.
Because the dice are supposed to reflect, more, not to say 1 shot per dice roll.
Right.
It could be you taking bang, 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 and one of them hitting finally.
Yep. So our next one. Oh, go ahead. Don.
So, no, they provided us with the stats for these items anyway, even though they don't have them in the block.
right.
We have stats for them. Put a price on them, GMs. If you see a stat for it, put a price on it. Tell the characters, oh yeah, that revolver's pretty. It's pretty common in the setting. 150 credits, or no, they're not very common in the setting. So they're rarity 6 and they're 550 credits.
There you go.
Up to you, GM. So, all right.
So
No,
our next one here is a Royal Marine, which I like. There's this ability that they have, honor and grit. Okay, so when one of these Royal Marines when they exceed their wound threshold, they can immediately make a hard discipline check, and as an out of turn incidental, healing 1 wound per success. And if it brings them back below their threshold, they get back up. Now that's
Nice.
a tough freaking adversary. And that's a nice talent that you could put on. I mean, you can reskin this to put it on whatever. I haven't seen this before. Have you guys seen something like this before? In
No,
Here and On?
no.
I haven't.
Nope.
This
That's
is
pretty
kinda
cool,
new. Yeah, it is.
representing, the stiff upper lip of the British Royal Navy or whatever
Yeah.
Navy.
Exactly. Well, some of the like the Strahd zombies in the D shift 7D thing, if they go below, they run out of hit points. You make a con save, and they don't go down; they stay back up. That's what this reminded me of here. And when they think, oh yeah, he's destroyed, and then they get back up, they're like, oh, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're gonna reskin it though, don't do it with minions. Keep
No,
it rivals or nemesis.
Yeah, this is on the rivals, the Royal Marine rival. What's the next one we have?
Then we have the Clockwork Animal Automaton. The Clockwork Automaton tends to be powered by coil springs, and their actions are usually dictated by a complicated series of wax cylinders, apparently. Any kind of actual sentience, of course, is impossible, but some animals do seem to behave like in the almost equivalent of their animal counterpart. So,
Cool.
like one of the other pages has a gentleman with a clockwork raven kind of on his shoulder, so he would be attracted to shiny things, perhaps, and had a tendency to pick
There you go.
stuff and fly around and annoy people.
Yep.
So,
Nice.
I like this clockwork
basic,
fragility. What do you call it? Ability, where basically if they take a crit, they add +20 to the result. It's interesting.
well, yeah, because they're small usually. They're not really made for combat, but so they might fly into pieces more easily.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
The last one we have is the Colonial Governor, which is the only nemesis listed in this entry. Governors are powerful individuals without exception. Their abilities and primary focus are towards the social encounter. Usually follow up with a group of, they're backed by Marines, mercenaries, or even pirates. So this is more of a social adversary.
Right.
Their ability here for the colony, once per round.
I love it.
Once per round, when targeted by a combat check, you may choose one ally within range, and the attack then targets that character instead of the Colonial Governor. This is that ability that I was trying to remember where I saw it in here. Yeah, it's the ability to grab a minion, let him take your freaking bullet for you.
Minion shield.
Yes.
For the colony. I like the name of that.
And,
Cool.
yeah, and that's great. That's your cowardly governor who who's all boisterous and gonna say all kinds of things, but as soon as the bullets start flying, bullet sponge, come here.
Yeah.
That's right. And this
Which
guy.
kind of reminds.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steph.
Which kind of reminds me of another system, the for NPCs, the fanatics, as they call it. So where the bad guy gets targeted by an attack. No, someone throws himself, maybe even willingly, in front of the bullet.
Yeah, this governor is going to be tough in a social fight because of this ruinous repartee talent that they could use once per encounter. They do an opposed charm or coercion versus discipline, and the target suffers 6 strain plus 1 strain per success, and the governor heals that amount of strain. Good thing they only do that once per encounter. Holy crap!
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but be an adversary too. On top of that, these guys are tough negotiators.
They are, yeah.
Yep, definitely.
So
All right.
great way to skin a nasty social enemy. You could reskin that to be maybe even not even you could make him a kingpin, a mafia kingpin, or you could make him was another really badass social guy. This could be maybe a senator and a
politician.
Yeah,
or some ruthless what do you call it?
Corporate.
What am I thinking?
Exec.
criminal boss.
No.
Corporate exec.
No, I can't think of the word. It's all right.
Champion of industry in a steampunk setting.
No,
you could
somebody
totally use it for one of your
ambassador. I was thinking of the word of ambassador. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, so that covers pretty much the generic stuff, and that covers pretty much a sample steampunk setting.
Mm-hmm.
But like we do, we go into the fluffy bits, and we got a section for that.
Yes.
All right, welcome to Setting the Tone. This is where we spotlight fluffy bits from a setting and that set that tone for the game. And today we're going to talk about the Sovereigns of Steam setting, which was an example given to us by Fantasy Flight on page 150 of the core rulebook. And it goes into what that setting entails. Mm-hmm. And so it starts out talking about this heliotrope sovereignty. Say that 4 times fast. It's a vast empire stretching from the heart of long civilized Margosa to the sands of Tortogos in the north and the ice wastes of the south. In other words, it's on another world somewhere. Yep. After a century of exploration and expansion and conquest, other nations on the continent have been brought to heel through diplomacy or diplomatic maneuverings, complex marriage arrangements, and the mighty airships of the Royal Navy. Queen Verdeline and House Heliotropa. No one challenges them, basically. So you've got this overarching empire. Again, it's that expansionist kind of mentality, and they oversee everything on some level. whether it's another foreign country that they manipulate through trade or through marriage, or whether it's one of their colonies, so to speak, where they have governors in place.
Right.
Either way, the Heliotropans have this capital city called Steelhearth. That goes into that.
That's a cool name.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the image that this evokes, talking about towering brick and iron buildings running miles and miles along the banks of the Aras River, and factories factories stain the waters. That's an image. Fill the air with brown smoke of burning coal. Let's just say the Queen has a army of laborers that keep the palace clean because it's so freaking dirty. The air is so dirty. That's just a great image.
Right, and that invokes this, think of London, when you see the in-panning shots coming in on the Sherlock Holmes movies of London during Victorian times, and how just filthy and smoky it looks. And we'll dial that up to 11 and make it a megalopolis.
Yep.
And you've got this ginormous fucking city with millions of people living in it, and so many factories that you can't, have no idea what's going on.
Right. And they say here that foreign dignitaries and nobles travel to Steelhearth in the fall because the southern winds blow away the worst of the smog. That's great.
That's, exactly.
Yep.
And
and you mentioned a lot of the debutantes dream of marrying into the Heliotropan dynasty.
Not only does it offer wealth and prestige to them, but it also allows them to guarantee them a job. Because I'm sure jobs are going to be more and more scarce as things get more and more automated. So, So outside the halls of power, how's that look, Stephan?
That's it. I was just reading up on that too, for my part. So yeah, just like earlier, we were talking about the dystopian or part of it, or the layers of society, or the haves and have-nots. So this covers basically the lower classes that toil in Steelheart's factories and struggle for day-to-day survival in the alleys and soot-stained apartments that they have. And he says the best that they can hope for is maybe a meager salary to pay for some cheap alcohol and expensive rents that they have to pay for.
Yeah.
So that's where you can have some of the struggle, maybe in the background or as part of the main story, as maybe revolution is stirring between this cast of society who keeps things going, and maybe they're seeing their jobs maybe being threatened by automation and all these machines coming in. So and the rich are trying to keep them in line and make sure that they stay up above and untouched by all this dirt and the rabble.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Then it goes into about, with this vast empire, you got to keep it together. So how do they do that? Well, they have this vast spider web of rail lines that stretches out from Steelhearth and links all of Margosa.
What a great image. What a great image that is, right? Just, that's cool. Sorry.
And no, that's fine. And it sends all these new technologies out to the far reaches of the empire and every corner of the continent, ensuring that the empire has economic dominion over all. Many smaller countries grumble quietly that the railroad, along with the more recently developed telegraph network, ensures military domination as well. I mean, few wars can start when the Queen's countless regiments of Fusiliers and Hussars are only days away by rail. I really love that little bit there of, you're not going to start a war with them when they can freaking send just legions coming your way as quick as possible. So
that's it, because communication and speed of, on land could be another factor of them dominating militarily as well.
Yep.
And this little bit brings to me a place where, a great group of adventures can take place. You can do one-shots, you can do campaigns solely based on the railways themselves.
Yep.
And the one-shot, like we talked in our last episode where we talked about pulp settings, where you have the mystery setting, where you have the murder on the Orient Express. You could totally bring that right here into your Sovereigns of Steam and have a murder and give it all the twists and turns that a steampunk setting would throw into it. And you have this murder mystery on this train that's going from one, leaving, maybe it's headed to the capital, and you have to solve the crime before you get there, or the Queen's Imperial inspectors are going to dock your pay, and then you won't be able to pay your rent. All this other stuff. Yeah. So
that's cool. I like that. You can even do a little bit of play that whole revolution is just rising, a rebellion, if you will, might be taking out this telegraph network.
Yep.
Sabotaging the rail lines and those kinds of things. Yeah, there's a lot of and things
all
you can do here.
All your Old West stories can be told around this, because I don't know if you guys have played a lot of Old West games, but every time those Old West games come up, the railway, the telegraph, those become important parts of that expansion into the West that the U.S. did. And this is the same kind of element. You throw all those little feels in there. The natives in the area, they're not Native Americans. They're some other kind of native in the area that are upset because of the steel horse is traveling through, the steel dragon is traveling through their lands. Maybe, it's not fully fleshed out. So you can have these little bits that you throw in there that you...
A mining town that's just being boot stomped by the local governor, right? And you got a group of miners that you got to rally to revolution or whatever,
It comes to mind Deadlands. Because it's a steampunk setting, you could totally drop out some of the more supernatural elements, but you could totally include reskin a Deadlands adventure and put it in a Sovereigns of Steam campaign.
Oh, absolutely. So with
another aspect.
Oh, go ahead.
Another aspect I just reminded, that comes through with the Victorian era kind of thing, is that exploration can also be part of the world, because not every part of the world has been explored. Just like on Earth, they were still referring to the deep, darkest parts of Africa, or even South America wasn't very well known. Even North America, there's still plenty of legends there, or the Far East.
Oh, absolutely.
Take a knot out of there, and you can have in Margosa, the jungles of Margosa. What hidden secrets are there that might improve for the wealth of the Queen?
Want to do a Tarzan story? Set it in a jungle somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. You know it. There is a heart of darkness. There is a heart of darkness there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, the Phantom.
Well, it does go into... continues onward, and it talks about what their frontier is, and that is the boiling sea along their, I believe it's along their western borders.
Yes, they call it the Unknown West.
Yes, the Unknown West. So along their western borders is this boiling sea that kind of acted as a natural boundary protecting what was beyond from expansion for many years. However, recently, a member of the Queen's Navy, a woman by the name of Agatha Scarborough, and her crew have learned how to breach the steam clouds, obviously with some sort of maybe new airship technology.
Yep.
And on the far side of the boiling sea, they found a boundless expanse of islands and archipelagos. Hello, Pirates of the Caribbean. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know it.
Uninhabited and pristine and full of valuable natural resources. And it set off a furious land rush. So here you go. You've got that expansion into Africa that the English did in the 1800s. Now you have that in going into this unknown region, the unknown West.
Oh yeah.
So, go ahead.
And of course, like anything else in these, they call them the colonies, the Terrenia colonies. They have, just become, they say, a haven of entrepreneurs, inventors, criminals, and revolutionaries. So, basically, if you don't necessarily like the class restrictions of Steelhearth and want to build a new life, this is where you go. Yeah, try and hop on an airship and get to the colonies and do it.
Right.
So, this is just great for all kinds of stories. Like you said, the Pirates of the Caribbean, there are plenty of other RPG systems out there that are built all around Caribbean pirates. There was there's one, Pirates of the Spanish Main is one from Savage Worlds, and there's countless others that you can
Seven Seas.
Yeah, you could drop right in here if you want. Yeah. And it's all airships instead of, surface ships. It's airships. It's all
It can be both.
Well, it can be both. It can be the trains, and that's when you do like old movies where you have characters are traveling, but all you see is the map with a little plane going on over it to represent them traveling.
Oh, here's
if you want to skip over.
Here's something interesting reading. Alchemical elixirs able to transfer humans into ravening beasts have begun making their way back across the boiling sea, causing chaos and mayhem in the streets of Margosa. So that's kind of cool. You can maybe have a group of adventurers that are monster hunters, hunting down revenants, hunting down the mongrels that are popping up in these cities. If you want to do that kind of a campaign, that's a possibility.
Why would you hunt down my character like that? That's not cool, dude.
Because it's your character, dude.
Well, and there's not with the Imperial Expanse, there comes the criminal element, and that's what it was talking about there. It was talking about the mad scientists that are all out there that want to go out there where there's no Imperial oversight, and you've got your criminal element. That's your pirates and your it says here, not all of the not all of the founding motives are so pure. Some of the sandy coves and green canopies of the furthest islands hide refuges of depravity and dark science.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to raid a mad scientist's castle? Just throw it on this freaking, throw it on an island in the middle of nowhere.
There you go.
Former members of the Royal Society that have been banished for their unspeakable crimes, experiments and such. That kind of stuff comes to mind there.
Yeah, that's pretty. There's something pretty interesting that Imperial inspectors roam the colonies searching for these mad scientists, and also squash stories claiming that few aristocratic families have paid handsomely to resurrect a dear child or loved one.
Yeah.
Some even claim the Royal Society has established its own clandestine laboratory, where it works to design new clockwork soldiers.
Nice.
So it can fill the Queen's armies with metal automatons.
Is it automatons or automatons?
Yes.
Is it tomato or tomato?
Yes. That's where you have the secret base of, you throw in a little bit of James Bond infiltration, like, haha, we have to stop this.
Oh, yeah, dude.
You can totally do spy games, yeah.
Between houses that represent, mercantile interest. Give some good names. Yeah. So, the new charter corporations that complicate matters even further, they say. Founded by royal decree, these organizations nevertheless have aristocratic ties because they have all the money, need to stay in power. So these mercantile classes control the charter corporations, giving a new luster to names like Sirius, Ward, Beryl, and Danburite in Steelheart's halls of power. That's another cool aspect. So yeah, these aristocrats are becoming captains of industry.
Exploiting the colonies for their own profit.
Well, exactly, because they see resources there, so they great opportunities to expand and support their power base back home.
Black sales, baby, black sales.
Yeah,
you do black sales, drop it in here, right?
That's it. Yep. So you can be part of the West Sirius airship fleet.
Nice.
Where you go out there and meet new life and new civilizations and bomb the hell out of them and take all their treasure.
Yep.
Or maybe you meet a lost continent and it's full of dinosaurs and lizard men.
Nice. And then there's the element of war, where you have the colonies that are even run by the Queen's agents, with proper members of the aristocratic households that cannot be counted on for their loyalty, like Victor Kane, the governor of Deckland. The largest and most civilized colony may fly the imperial flag over his estate. However, he happily takes money from the Beryl family to run its quartz mines how it pleases. He dispatches royal hussars to the of his Argent Guard to break strikes in the galvanite refineries. So he rules with like a heavy hand. So revolution would be a thing there, but he's also corrupt. So you could, if you could expose his corruption, maybe you could make that a better country. But then there's other colonies like Coveward Colony, which has a wayward heliotropan scion named Mackenzie Heliotrope Augustus, who doesn't even pretend any loyalty to the crown, and they have shot down at least one Navy airship to prove it. Nice. So you could have this whole war between, the Coveward Colony and the Imperial Navy that you do as a campaign seed, and the players on either side of that war trying to either broker peace or be involved in the war. Maybe they're soldiers in a battalion in the Coveward Colony trying to defend against this overwhelming navy. Pretty badass campaign idea. You could almost do a gritty war campaign right there.
You totally could.
Yeah, because sometimes you see war footage from World War I and II. It's like, yeah, that was pretty gritty, nasty business. People, trench warfare and so forth. So definitely, with new technology rolling around, big exosuits walking the battlefield.
You can have clockworks. Yeah, you can have your clockwork automatons on one side, right? And you can have these guys in these in your, what was that? The A5 armor. I'm calling it A5 armor because I can't remember what his name is.
Right? The Admiral's power armor.
The aero suits dive bombing the clockwork soldiers.
Yep.
Either way, these issues plus airship pirates, the long and lost and abandoned colonies, secret military expeditions, rival nations, and the occasional armed rebellion make the colonies a patchwork and a web of conflicting interests, or a great place to run a variety of campaigns or serialized adventures. And that pretty much covers the whole setting in a nutshell.
Yeah, what they put in. We've added a few extra bits as we thought of them. So.
Yeah. So when are you going to run it, Tony? You ready yet? No, I'm just kidding.
After my Terranoth, maybe. Who knows? I don't
know. All right. Oh, so are we ready to go to our favorite part of the show?
Well, yeah. My favorite part and yours.
All right, welcome back to our show and our favorite part of the show, called Advantageous Threats.
Well done.
Where we all create a little situation, set up a little scenario and with different characters, and the two other people try to trip them up.
There we go.
And then, of course, we roll the dice and see what we've got.
Yeah.
So we'll start tonight with Tony. We'll start by who's youngest, and we'll work our way up to the great aged.
Starting with the baby.
Yes.
Beauty before age. I like it. Okay.
There you go.
Who you got?
All right.
No, Matt Stark isn't here.
Only you consider him beautiful. I'm just saying. All right.
Oh.
His wife, maybe.
I don't know if she would say that. I don't know. I don't know her. She may go, I hate that man. She's just married to him for his money. You never know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because he's got a huge dice bag.
Exactly. All right. So my character, Roland Hargrave III, is a mongrel lawman attempting to disperse a small public disturbance at a railway station in the Sovereigns of Steam campaign.
Nice.
He is going to be using the Scathing Tirade talent, which is a Tier 2 talent found on page 77 of the Core Rulebook. And it is an active action that says this character may use this talent to make an average coercion check. And for each success, it generates one enemy within range suffers 1 strain. For each advantage, one enemy affected by Scathing Tirade suffers an additional strain. Now, my GMs have determined I can use this narratively and basically have said for each success I get or each advantage, I can convince people to disperse from the area.
Nice.
Yes.
So how many people are we talking here in this group, do you think?
Oh, probably, I don't know. What do you think? Is in the, let's see, a railway station, a public disturbance, probably maybe like a small group of protesters protesting.
Maybe 10? Maybe a dozen? Or are you thinking maybe a couple dozen?
20? 20?
I would say at least 20, 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, 20, so difficulties based on group size, table 7-1, page 120. Daunting. It'll be a daunting check for a group between 16 and 50. So daunting.
Okay.
Now, you're a mongrel.
I am.
So you're going to upgrade that twice right off the bat because you're a mongrel. Because it suggests that GMs upgrade social skill checks twice based on the character options here.
Excellent. Okay.
Now I'm wondering if that's because
I also have another talent that allows, and it's called Proper Upbringing, which is a Tier 1 talent found on page 74. When your character makes a social skill check in polite company, which would be considered society here, polite people, you may suffer a number strain to use this talent to add an equal number of advantage to the roll.
Well,
now,
let me back up just a moment with what I did to upgrade your skill twice. This is actually under the Beast Within. You're not necessarily beasting out, right? You look human. So I would think it would only apply if you're beasting out, correct?
Yeah. It's under the Beast Within, yes.
Yeah, it is. So forget what I said. It's daunting, no 2 upgrades. So
very well then. Well, it's daunting enough. That's
daunting enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I only have 1 rank in Proper Upbringing, so I'm going to get 1 advantage. So I'm just going to set a green die aside here with 1 advantage on it. And that right now my pool is 2 yellow, 1 green for my coercion, with 4 purple dice. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I would say that even though you're not beasting out, maybe people know. Maybe some people may have heard that you're a mongrel. That may go against you. Maybe at least a setback dice.
Excuse me.
Okay, I'll throw 1 in there for that.
You know what? Actually, let's.
But I do have a tin star on my coat. You'd think maybe I could probably put a boost die in for that.
Put a boost die in for that. And you know what, Stephan? Instead of giving them a setback die, let's use that reason why we want to use a story point here and upgrade it to a red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That there are some people. There are some people who know that they've maybe seen you mongrel out. So
okay,
that's our reason for throwing a red in there for you.
There we go.
Spending the story.
All right. Well, I'm happy with this pool. Are you?
I am too.
Yep.
All right. So, rolling it out. First of all, your red die came up blank again. That happens to me more times than you can count.
Good lord.
Secondly, my free advantage was canceled out by one of the more one of the more difficult dice, and I also have one of my yellow dice cancel one of the difficulty dice, leaving me with and my boost die cancels out the last failure, which leaves me with net 2 successes and 2 advantage.
Ooh.
Nice.
So, with 2 successes, I would. I can disperse a number determined by the GM of people from the conflict. And I would like to actually spend my advantage to make them all come from one side of the argument.
Okay.
So, like a group of protesters, maybe, as opposed to the people who are standing there trying to, get them, the counter-protesters.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds that sounds good. I mean, succeeding just kind of all these people, you succeeded in dispersing it and not letting it come to blows, if you will.
That's
right.
it.
Well done.
Diffuse the situation.
Well,
Polite golf.
law and order must be kept in a civilized society.
That's right.
For the Queen. Pip pip.
That's right. For the colonies.
For the Empire.
Nice.
There we go.
All right.
So then we
Who's
go
next?
to our wonderful Chris.
Yeah, so I have something strange here. Yes, I am. I have a hunter in the something strange setting. His name is Chester Winsome. He's on a trail of a 150-year-old vampire, or is it the other way around? We don't know. Yeah. W. Emmett Roebuck, the Civil War vampire, has just gone invisible, and Chester Winsome needs to spot him. And just after he's augmented himself, going down like this alley or whatever, right? So Chester, he's got a perception of 2 yellow, 2 green. The second green is because he augmented himself with with his magiques, and.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be against the stealth of Emmett Roebuck and the fact that he went invisible. So we've got 3 red, 1 purple, and 4 setback dice.
Holy mackerel!
This is quite the freaking pool. However, Chester has a knack for this kind of stuff, so he's going to take 2 of the setback dice off, and he's actually using a flashlight to take a little bit of the darkness away, if you guys wanted to do that. So,
is some of the 4 setback dice, one of the setback is due to darkness?
No, the 4 setback dice is because he's gone invisible.
All right. So, yeah, but it is dark.
Could be dark.
Well, he's a vampire, right?
Yep.
It's definitely dark.
Yep.
So I would have thrown another setback die in for the darkness.
Okay. So there's that.
Now,
cool.
You said this is an alleyway?
It could
in a
be.
City.
I'm thinking it might be.
Modern alley in a city.
Maybe.
What if there's vents of steam coming up through the drains?
Ooh, I like that. That's a nice image there, dude.
Puddles of water.
It's just there's little pockets of steam here and there.
Okay.
That may help the vampire and may hurt the vampire.
So
as he is invisible.
I'm thinking
so
one of each. All right, setback and a boost die. All right. Well, I'd like to spend a story point here because you know what? I've been on a trail of this guy for quite some time, and he knocked out my brother.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. So I have 3 yellow, a green, and a blue. I also have 3 red, a purple, and 3 black. 3 setback dice. Do you guys want to add more? Do you want to flip a story point here or no?
I'll leave that up to Stephan.
No, I'm pretty good. I mean, 3 red is already quite a bit.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's see what we're getting. All right. Yeah, let's see. One of them fell on the ground.
Uh-oh. Well, did you remove your some of the setback dice because of your... Okay.
Oh, I did. All right. Ooh, he is triumphantly unsuccessful. Yeah. So, Chester failed with 3 threat and a triumph.
Ooh.
By the way. So,
right.
Yeah. Go for it.
Allow me to take your threat.
Yeah.
So, you hear a noise. You're moving down the alley. You hear a noise, and you think you've got him. You crouch down as you look possibly under a dumpster, and all of a sudden, a black cat bursts out from under the dumpster, and leaps into your face, claws your face as it goes by.
Oh, shit.
And then disappears into the night.
You hear a weight on your back.
Uh-oh.
And a laugh from above. As perhaps the vampire just launched himself up onto the rooftops from your back.
Oh,
there we go.
Gosh.
So those threat might be some kind of setback on your next action.
Or he freaking scratched me for some strain or whatever.
Yeah, you could narrate that as the cat scratched you right by the eye, so you're going to have setback dice to look. If you're doing perception, you could totally do it as maybe when he launched off your back, you fell to the ground, you're prone. There's a lot of ways you could narrate that with that threat.
Yep.
What do you want with your triumph?
I think my triumph would be Emmett dropped something on the ground.
Yeah, I knew it.
I don't know what it is, but he dropped something.
Clank, 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 clank. As he leaps off of your back, you look down, and there is a small key to a railroad locker. One of those railroad lockers at the, say, Grand Central Station type lockers.
Sweet. Love it. All right. Way to go, Chester.
There you go.
He hates cats.
If he gets out of this alive, he might have another clue.
He might. All right, Stephan. Who do you have?
All right. I have was inspired a little bit by the Sovereigns of Steam setting that we discussed tonight. So I have Miranda Harrington, the first mate of the Imperial ship, the SS Valiant Thunder, an airship with a prestigious background.
Nice.
Now she's part of the crew, and she needs to shut down the mad Dr. Azzmodeus' microwave bomb that is placed under the city.
I love the name, dude.
Yes. So the mad scientist says, he worked on this in one of the colonies and brought it in with his goons, and because he's been slighted maybe by the Imperial family, he wants to cook basically the entire palace and the nearby population for being wronged. So she's managed to track down where the bomb is under in the sewers. I'd given her some mechanics, but mainly I was inspired by her trying to stop it from going off from a scene from an anime I used to watch called Appleseed, where the main character she's only had one clip of a gun and she has to hit a circuit board. Well, in this case, she's got her trusty sidearm, her Benjamin and Master's 6-shooter, and trying to hit the master control lever to shut the bomb off. But there's all kinds of pipes and obstructions, so she can only do it with her gun at long range.
At long range, okay. All right.
So she's got 3 green, 2 yellow as her range light. It's a custom weapon. She's used to it. It's her signature weapon. So it's superior. So that automatically gives her an advantage, which I'm going to use a boost die as a indicator I've got one. Right. And accurate 2, which gives her 2 boost dies. But with trying to search for him, she met up with a couple of goons, and now her good hand is is damaged. She's got a critical wound on that hand, so she has to use her offhand.
Oh, okay. Now, before we
all
go
the
any
wounds
further,
are defeated, but she has to diffuse it before it actually goes off.
actually, before we go further, Tony,
I'm with you. You're thinking the same thing I am.
are you? I'd like to combine mechanics and ranged. I would like you to use your ranks and mechanics with your agility.
Exactly.
Dude,
right.
we are born from the.
You're going to be
Here we go.
making a ranged attack with mechanics.
Yes.
All right.
Because you need to know where to shoot what specific part of the bomb is.
Right.
So, okay. So that'll be 3 yellow and 2 green.
Yep.
Now it's long range, so right there it's 3. That's 3 purple. I'm even gonna say because it's so small, it actually acts as if it's extreme range. So I would increase the difficulty by 1. What do you think, Tony?
I agree.
All right. So long range is usually 3.
Yep. So add another. So add a
Another
4th
purple?
one in there. Yep.
All right.
And you're using your offhand, which when using an offhand weapon, you increase the difficulty by 1. So now I'm going to increase it to a 5th purple.
Ooh.
Right. So we got 5 purple
Nice.
and 3 green, 2 yellow. 2 green, 3 yellow, 2 blue for accurate.
And then you're gonna add an advantage because it's superior.
And I've got an advantage. And since all the goons have been dealt with, she's putting at least her arm on a pipe, and
She's an aim?
try to aim, double aim.
All right.
Might as well, because she's trying to save the city after all.
Oh yes, double aim,
of course she
please.
is.
Do.
Double aim, and I would flip a story point, because members of her family are up there as well. So
And I have a reason as the GM for us to flip a story point.
Yep. And I'm
So-
wondering if it's the same reason I'm thinking of. Go ahead.
Well, you said all the minions were taken care of, so you were in a previous firefight, and while you did reload, you reloaded in a hurry, and you're not sure exactly how many rounds you put in there.
well, that's it. And if they're properly loaded, so
There you go.
she's doing it with her offhand.
My reason was you're shooting a fucking bomb.
Yeah. Well, that could be just a setback dice at the very least, just for the nerves.
There you go. Setback die for nerves. Perfect.
All right.
All right, go.
All right,
This
so
sounds good to
final
me.
pool is 1 static advantage, 4 yellow, 1 green, 4 boost dice, 4 purple difficulty dice, 1 challenge die, and a black die.
And a black die.
Jesus.
So-
Damn.
All right,
Are
so
we
we'll
good
be
for
here
that?
till next Tuesday. We'll figure out what you rolled as you count it up.
All right, let's go. There we go. All right, so remove the blanks ones real quickly. So we do have a triumph.
Ooh.
The red die did not come out of despair, but there are 2 failures on it. So let me just quickly educate all of that. It cancels out. We've got quite a few threats
Nice.
all over here. We've got an advantage, though. I'll calculate all my advantages. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 advantages.
Holy crap.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threat. So I'm left with 2 advantages. Keep that dice there. And as far as failures, only 2 failures on all those dice, which removes the successes from that one and that one. There you go. I'm still left with... She does succeed, at least to save the city with 1, 2, 3, 4 with a triumph. So 4 successes. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 advantage. And a triumph.
7 advantage.
Holy!
No,
Minus
not 7. Not
1
7.
advantage.
Yeah, no.
'Cause you
Yeah,
have
only
6.
6, 7. So yeah, well, it was 8 total advantages when taking into account. 2 advantages. Oh, so many dice. Only 2 advantages are left uncounted. There you go.
Holy shit. That's quite the...
So, yeah. So sometimes you have to be careful when you have that many dice.
What did your end up being with now?
So 4 successes
Two advantage and a triumph.
And a triumph. So of course, so her hand's shaking. She manages to just exhale at the proper moment. Bang, bang, bang. A couple of shots. Hits the control lever. The whole thing shuts down.
Nice.
Triumph.
With triumph, I mean, maybe the whole thing just breaks down.
It was only good for one use, and by powering up, it just expels its energy safely.
Yeah.
It's no longer a bomb.
Nope, it's no longer a bomb. It actually releases some extra energy back into the grid system, and people have free power for a month.
I love it. There you go.
And maybe with some advantage. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe with her advantage, there's a clue on the device as to where Dr. Azzmodeus has disappeared to.
Nice.
She only defeated his goons because, of course, he doesn't want to be anywhere near the bomb, of course.
No.
So there you go.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Very
Holy
nice.
crap, that was quite the pool, dude.
I don't know why your bad guy had to have an Az name, AZZ, or I don't know who you were insinuating there as bad guy.
Who knows?
No, well, actually, the last name is from a coworker I used to work with in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Oh, instead of Azzmodeus?
I think he spelled it with an ASS, but I just thought, AZZ, why not?
It sounds more sinister.
What is this ZZ? A?
Yeah. A. That's how we pronounce it properly.
You know it.
In the Empire.
There you go. The colony that you are.
That's part of the former colony.
The former colony that you are. So, are we ready to end this?
That was
thing?
a fun one, dude.
That was really fun.
Yeah. All right, let's go on.
All right. All right, everybody, that's our show. I'd like to shout out to the 3T RPG Podcast by our buddies across the pond. It's a British RPG podcast all about tabletop role-playing games, or ARPGAs is what they call it, by Harrison Hund, Nick Lamley, and James Clark. A few episodes back, I think they had Jim Wampler on, who did Mutant Crawl Classics. I think they reviewed Judge Dredd and the Worlds of 2000 AD tabletop adventure game, and there's all kinds of other stuff they've got out there. And you can find them on Podbean, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. I don't get to listen to any podcasts, so.
They're also over with us at MeWe. They have their own page on the MeWes like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Stephan, what we got? Any reminders?
Of course, still Con on the Cob, the 3rd of October to the 6th.
Coming up.
Yep.
A little over a month away.
I know. Yep. I got to start doing the countdown, don't I? I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, so it's less than 40 days. I think yesterday I looked up, it was 40 days. So
cool.
I think we're now to 39.
39 days and 38 nights.
Yeah, so we'll be there. Look for our banner. We have a Nerds International banner, so we should be between the pool and the mini putt.
Nice. Yep, that's
the
right.
atrium.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I have a Primordial Machina game on Saturday, which I'm saving a character if any of our listeners want to come up and want to play in my Saturday game. There will be a character or two available, so you can play with us.
Just look for the pasty white bald game master.
Hey, bald and beautiful, motherfucker. Get it right.
Well, of course, yeah.
That's right. And you know what? I think I might have to bring my waffle iron again.
Oh, we're going to have Millennium Falcon waffles?
Millennium Falcon waffles. That's right.
Fuck yeah.
One of those mornings.
I'll bring the Thurup.
The syrup, yes. I'll bring some whiskey flavored maple syrup.
Ooh.
All All right.
Yeah, that
so
did
you
not
can,
last me long at all, Stephan, by the way.
No.
Holy
if you're
crap.
planning on attending Con on the Cob and you or want to talk to us, email us over at findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of Stephan or myself at Finding the Narrative on Facebook, Nerds International and Finding the Narrative on Mayway. Twitter presence is at _FTN_Genesys, and Stephan is lovingly handling that.
Yep.
And you can listen to us or send your friends and family to listen to us. Finding the Narrative Podcast on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, and Spotify. So this is Tony saying, keep rolling them bones even though you're on vacation.
And this is Stephan saying, don't forget to ask for those boost dice if you don't have any talents that give you the boost dice. So.
And this is Chris to remember the rule of cool and just have fun barbecuing for your buddies. And
we're gonna add a
of course.
caveat.
Apparently, everybody added a caveat to it. All right. Good night, everybody.
Adios.
Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned in this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. Copyright 2019, all rights reserved.